All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. What's up, everybody? All my people in Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, all the way up Staten Island, and my home borough, Brooklyn. Back at it with another video. And today, February 21st, 2025, marks the 60th anniversary of the death of Malcolm X, who was and still is to this day an icon in the quote-unquote black community, as an intellectual, as a religious leader, as a black separatist. You know, Malcolm, his image and his legacy is so misrepresented today, being misused by not just liberal Caucasians, but by liberal blacks. I hate to steal from the brother COJ 144 because he popularized that term per se, but that's the best way I could put it. It's so misrepresented, so misused, and it's so disgusting and disrespectful. That's why you have to do your own research. Don't just take somebody else's word for it. Do your own research. That's what I did when I first became aware of Malcolm X when I was younger. I watched the movie on his life, directed by Spike Lee, starring, of course, Denzel Washington. I read a lot about him, watched a lot of old interviews of his. He's a very interesting person. And I myself am not a Muslim or a member of the Nation of Islam, but I think Malcolm is somebody to be admired, even if you're not a Muslim or a member of the Nation of Islam. I'm sure there's some brothers in here who are going to watch this video who are members of the NOI and who are Muslim who will disagree with that. But that's fine. That's fine. Look, I'm being respectful. I mean this respectfully. I think Malcolm is somebody to be admired, even if you're not a Muslim, if you're a quote unquote black man, not a Muslim. He was able to turn his life around from common criminal to religious leader, whose speeches and the things he said should be studied to this day. And unlike most black leaders during his time and to this day, Malcolm was not just all talk; he was about action as well. But let's get into it. Malcolm was born in Omaha, Nebraska. His father, Earl Little, was a religious leader, a Christian religious leader, but a religious leader nonetheless. And unfortunately, he was killed when Malcolm was 6 years old in 1931 by the Black Legion, which was a spin-off group, if you will, from the Ku Klux Klan. They were a white supremacist group, but they had black in their name. But, it is what it is. After the death of his father, Earl, Malcolm's family kind of disassembled, if you will, and he became a common criminal. He was known as Detroit Red. He was in Harlem, New York. He ended up being captured and arrested. And when I was in prison, he found Allah. He found God, Allah. There was a brother whose name escapes my mind. He was in prison with Malcolm. He was a member of the Nation of Islam. He got Malcolm to convert to Islam and find Allah. Among his release from prison, Malcolm joined the Nation of Islam and met with Elijah Muhammad and basically kind of became the second man to Elijah Muhammad in the Nation of Islam. It was Elijah Muhammad's group, but Malcolm was, I won't say the face of it, but he was right there, the second man, the second most well-known member of the Nation of Islam. In 1959, they were featured in a television special, if you will, called The Hate That Hate Produced, which is one of the most biased, blatantly, a great description of yellow journalism that I've ever seen. Of course, it was conducted by a quote-unquote white man whose name escapes my mind, and they had their token black interviewer, I believe his name was Louis Lomax, do the interviews with Malcolm X and other members of the Nation of Islam. In that special, The Hate That Hate Produced, it scared white America. A lot of white people were shocked that there were black people, or Negroes at the time was the term, that felt that way about them. They were seeing Negroes refer to the whites as the devil, say the white man is the devil, this, that, and the third. Louis Farrakhan, I charge the white man with being the greatest murderer on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest robber on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest drunkard on earth. For all you who never heard that speech, go look it up. And they were shocked that there were black people who felt that way, but there were also Negroes, black people who were shocked. They never heard quote unquote black man or black people speak so strongly and negatively about white people in a public forum. They were so used to like the Martin Luther Kings of the world, talking about love and prayer and praying for our enemies, forgiving our enemies, so on and so forth, and wanting to be equal, and letting their homes and churches get bombed and attacked with dogs and hoses. But for the first time ever, white people and black people were seeing a group of Negroes talk about how the whites are the devil and so on and so forth. And it actually had a lot of positive effect, even though it was trying to demonize the Nation of Islam. Obviously, it was going to get by a white man. A lot of black people became infatuated with the Nation of Islam and wanted to join them. And the Nation of Islam almost were able, because once again, the Nation of Islam. This is why I can't say Malcolm was a civil rights leader, or I don't call him that at least, because he was a black separatist. No, the civil rights people, like the Martin Luther Kings of the world, they wanted to be equal with the whites. They wanted equality. The Nation of Islam, they were separatists. They wanted to be separated from Caucasians. They wanted all black people to come together under Allah and form their own communities, their own schools. They had a University of Islam, I believe, was based in Chicago. Their own little ethnic enclave, their own newspaper, their own businesses, everything. They almost succeeded in creating a successful, functioning black community. They almost succeeded. Of course, things happen. The powers that be wouldn't allow that to happen, allow it to succeed. As much as Elijah Muhammad was leader, it was because of Brother Malcolm. He was going around the country, New York, Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, giving speeches, saying all these things. He was able to, because he was a great orator, a great speaker, he was able to have some charisma. He was able to get some black people, to join the Nation of Islam. Of course, not all. There were blacks who disagreed. That's fine. That's fine. It's life. People disagree. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. But he was able to get some. And it was because of him. A lot of people in the Nation of Islam, a lot of brothers who were jealous of Malcolm, quiet as kept, were able to got Elijah Muhammad's ear, and they thinking, it convinced Elijah Muhammad that Malcolm thought that he was becoming bigger than the nation, so on and so forth. But yeah, Malcolm gave a lot of speeches, and he had a lot of gems. The "Who taught you to hate yourself" is a personal favorite quote of mine. Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to, so much so that you don't want to be around each other? No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you that hate being what God made you? It's a very, because during like the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, there were some black people who would put some chemicals in their hair to straighten their hair, and Malcolm was one of them. Again, go watch the movie, or if you saw that picture I showed you earlier, Malcolm mugshot, his hair was straight. And the reason they were doing that because they were trying to look more like the white man to ingratiate themselves in the quote-unquote white man's community. Of course, there were black people who would buy homes in white neighborhoods and would have the crosses burned. They would send their kids to white schools, and the kids would get harassed and bullied. Jackie Robinson did that, and Jackie Robinson was the person who did that. There were a lot of black people who did that, and all they went through was hell and harassment. It's like, why would you guys do it? They don't want you in your communities. Stay in your own communities. Build them up. Build them up to become successful middle-class black communities. And there were some, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Harlem. There were middle-class black communities all throughout America at that time, and to this day there are still. But a lot of blacks, they don't look at it as anything special, anything important, unless they're around the so-called white man. It's very unfortunate. But, Malcolm's time in the Nation of Islam came to an end. After the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Malcolm made a statement, about chickens coming home to roost. Elijah Muhammad did not like that. He reprimanded Malcolm for that. Malcolm eventually ended up leaving the Nation of Islam, I believe, in 1964. He journeyed to Mecca, and Malcolm stated that while in Mecca, he saw blacks and whites drinking from the same water fountain and, united, and there was no racism. They were just united under Allah. Now, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, for all you don't know what Dr. Khalid Muhammad is, do research on him. Dr. Khalid Muhammad stated decades after Malcolm's assassination, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, no disrespect to Brother Malcolm, but I journeyed to Mecca and I didn't see anything he was talking about. I saw racism so thick you could cut it with a knife. That's what Khalid Muhammad said, and Malcolm X said, look, who's telling the truth? I don't know. I wasn't around then. I've never been to Mecca. I don't plan on going there, but hey, it is what it is. I don't know who's telling the truth. But understand this. During that time period, Malcolm, he had left the Nation of Islam. There were members of the Nation of Islam trying to kill him. Of course, there were Caucasians trying to kill him. Desperate times demand desperate measures. And Malcolm X, at that time, he started to accept help from good intended Caucasians. Because while you've seen the Malcolm X movie, that pivotal scene, of course, this was based on a true story. Malcolm was at, I believe, Columbia University, and a white woman approached him saying, I'm paraphrasing, Mr. X, I'm a good person despite what my ancestors did. What can a white person like me who's not prejudiced do to aid the cause of the Negro? And Malcolm coldly looked at her and said, nothing. Malcolm later said he regretted that statement, and he shouldn't have, because there's nothing they can do. I know this may be controversial. Look, are there other ethnic groups, if you will, other races of people who mean no harm, who don't hate black people, and want to help black people? Yes, yes, absolutely there are. They have good intentions, but they can't be part of our solution because they're part of the problem. You know, like how the fuck can you be part of the solution when you're part of the problem? Like, I know that's gonna be controversial. It sounds fucked up, but it's the truth. So Malcolm said he later said he regretted that. He shouldn't have because he was correct. There's nothing that little blonde white girl was gonna do, or her friends of good white people, quote unquote, were gonna do to help the Negro at that time, or there's nothing they're even gonna do to help black people today. Nothing. Again, I know it sounds controversial, but it's the truth. But at that time, Malcolm was willing to accept help from Caucasians, accept their money at least, because, desperate times demand desperate measures. Now, unfortunately, the Nation of Islam, they were able to infiltrate one of Malcolm's meetings. He was giving a speech at the Abaddon Ballroom in New York, and on February 21st, 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated, and he was pronounced dead at age 39. Very, very unfortunate what went on. And, there was a docuseries made by a brother called Who Killed Malcolm X. I believe it's still on Netflix. Go watch it. It was very well made about who truly were the assassins that killed Malcolm X. It wasn't what the guys who they ended up arresting. No, Malcolm was killed, but his legacy lives on forever. A lot of the things he said, like I said, turned his life around from common criminal with straight white hair, banging white broads to a black, quote unquote, black intellectual, thought leader, religious leader, separatist. He has a lot of gems. You can go watch a lot of his interviews. He said a lot of very wise things. A lot of very wise quotes. Here's one: education is our passport to the future. For tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. For all you know, this is Malcolm X Shabazz High School. This is in the Brick City, aka Newark, New Jersey. Of course, this is the film Malcolm X, directed by Spike Lee, arguably his best film, starring Denzel Washington, arguably Denzel's best performance. Of course, Denzel was nominated for the Oscar for this role, for Best Actor in the lead role. He ended up losing to Al Pacino. Look, it's fine. It's life. This is perhaps the best performance of Denzel's career. Like I said, Malcolm is one of the most interesting people to study about and read about. Again, I'm not a member of the Nation of Islam. I'm not a Muslim, but I do find Malcolm to be a very interesting person. He was very highly intelligent. He said a lot of very wise things. And again, unlike most black leaders at that time and to this day, he wasn't just talking. He was about action. He wanted to build black communities separate from the Caucasians in America and probably abroad, so on and so forth. A very, very interesting person, very intelligent person. Rest in peace to brother Malcolm X. Your legacy lives on forever. Now, anybody got a favorite Malcolm X quote? Tell me in the comment section down below. Don't forget to click the like button, subscribe, help a young brother grow on YouTube. I'm gonna see you all.